What is the saddest detail about your life that no one knows? I used to sit and eat my lunch alone in a bathroom stall every day during JR High School, 1999 to 2002. I had major insecurity issues and thought no one wanted to eat lunch with me. To this day, whenever I eat the type of sandwiches I ate then, I can smell the school bathroom. I used to sit in there and then hide whenever someone came in. I didn't even read. I would just sit there worried that someone would see me. I memorized every detail of that stall. I could probably recreate it in detail 14 years later. Every day my mother would make my lunch for me to take to school, and she had no idea that I was eating it all alone in an empty bathroom. The worst part is that no one ever asked where I went during lunch, feeding into my insecurity that no one missed me. I've never told a soul, not even my wife. When I was a kid and living with my psycho mother, I finally convinced her to let me get a dog. Anyways, a couple months later, when I loved that little puppy more than anything, my mother drowned it in the bathtub. It effing kills me that none of my friends will ever text me first. If I don't send them a message, I can go days without ever receiving a notification aside from the games on my phone, which also makes me feel horrible. Now that summer vacation is starting, I don't know what I am going to do since I almost never get invited to anything and school was where I saw my friends. I'm scared that everyone secretly talks behind my back about me and that they are saying bad things. When my brother and I were 9 and 7, my mom told me she could not afford chocolate Easter eggs for us. I told my brother that we should not expect chocolate on Easter morning. He giggled and said, "Dennis, Mom's saying that to surprise us." I knew he was wrong, but he thought I was being silly. Next day, no chocolate. I was sick to my stomach and read all night, and to see the look on his face in the morning, and the immediate realization it was no joke, killed me a little inside. I'm 47 now and it's still a horrible memory. I am the 11th of 12 kids from a very loving family. He is 12th. I never told anyone and never bring it up as it brings back memories of the extreme poverty of being a boy. Now, at work, I initiate for the collection of food for the various food cupboards and the Shepherds of Good Hope Christmas hamper every year. No one knows why, and Prob thinks it's an attempt to get favor, but it's so much not. Wow, so many replies. You are all wonderful and kind. Life is good now. Me and my brother moved to Ottawa. Good jobs and we both own, in partnership with the bank lol, our own homes. Life is good and I always have a chocolate in the freezer. Love frozen chocolate. At Easter, I put a few solid chocolate bunnies in. Be kind to each other. I have gotten lots of very kind replies and some that are looking to blame. I need to put this out there because I may have given wrong perception of my dad. My dad had cancer in the leg and had a bone removed. It's only now, since he passed, that my older siblings tell me this stuff. They also, in their own way, protected us. You know the little balls of bone on your ankle? Well, dad had that removed plus part of his shin. He was a logger and was no longer able to provide. He was a good man, but when this happened he was no longer able to provide. My older sister told me he was bedridden for a long time. I have no memory of that. Mom most likely told kids not to discuss and not to let us go to his room. I have no idea, but Mom was a kind, gentle saint. I miss her. It's part my job right now to perform CPR on the dead and dying in the emergency department. Sometimes while family watches. I love my job generally, but those times are hard. There's something deeply unsettling about being the person pumping someone's heart in the first place. But when the code is called and you just stop, and that's it. That last chest compression was the last time their heart will beat, and it was you. It's very humbling. And I always treat patients with kindness and respect because I'm about as close to death as it gets, and kindness and servitude just seem right. I don't know, yeah. I act all happy and ridiculous, but really I don't feel anything. When I go out with my friends and family, I don't feel happy to see them. Plus I play scenarios in my head of me killing myself about 10-20 times per day. I was pregnant 8 years ago. I have a 20% chance of conceiving. So, I looked at it like a miracle. My boyfriend at the time threatened to break up with me if I didn't abort it. I bought a baby book and little booties. 3 days later, I miscarried. He made me return the baby book and throw away the flowers a friend bought me. I don't talk about it much. It was my only chance at having a child and I failed. So, I have to pretend that I don't want kids and that I am totally happy being child free. even though it eats me up inside. What do you mean you failed? It wasn't your fault, and there's nothing you could have done to prevent it. These things just happen, and they happen a lot but no one talks about them. Don't blame yourself. Also, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but that wasn't your only chance. There are options if you want to have a child, and I'm sure you know more about them than I do. Stop blaming yourself, and don't give up. When I was 12, my mom convinced me that my attraction to girls was because I wanted to marry them. Mom wasn't nice. I spent my HS and college years deathly afraid of talking to women. I'd walk across the street if one was walking towards me on the sidewalk. I married the first woman who seemed interested in me, and when that went to hell, I gave up. 15 years later I tried dating again and was dumped within months. I had no job, so I spent 3 months in her basement. I'm grateful she let me stay, but now romantic thoughts make me sad. I don't go out anywhere but to work anymore, and I've arranged my schedule to have several days where I work from home so I don't have to see anyone at all for days. Thanks, Mom. I guess on a positive note, I've always wanted to be a dad, but I'm too old now, so all my charity goes to children's services like counseling for abused kids, child advocacy, and homeless kids. It's the closest I can come to being a father. And for people asking, I'm in my 50s. I've been in therapy since I was 18. I had resolved a lot of my anxiety around women by my mid-20s. When I got married, my ex was emotionally and physically abusive, and we were married 8 years. I'm still overcoming that abuse and the crushing depression you've all noted that's a result of it. I don't blame my mom on how I am. She was who she was and she's gone now. So what's the point? I had dogs when I was married, but one died the week my divorce was final, and my ex took the other and my pickup truck, a regular country song. That, I don't think I'm emotionally suited to own more dogs, or to adopt or foster kids. I did game, MMOs, but quit when I went back to school a few years ago. I find it difficult to return to them. My job is challenging and interesting, and they pay me okay. So I think I'm doing as well as can be expected. I read and watch a lot of movies and shows. Throwaway account. People know my Reddit account. I've been lying to what's left of my friends and my family, but I spent my first year of university completely alone and made no friends in uni at all. Didn't go to any events or parties or gatherings. I spent learning all alone and I didn't have anyone, didn't ask anyone for help with all the subjects I was struggling. It was all school. Go live in my one-man pad. Go to my part-time job. Rinse and repeat. It was lonely as hell and I just silently suffered through it. I'm not looking forward to it when I come back to school that fall. So late so nobody will read this. I have a wonderful family who I love dearly and mean the world to me. I'm hugely successful in my line of work and a top 1% earner. However, part of me is completely broken over the death of my mom 4 years ago. I pretty much break down and cry almost every time I'm alone, because no amount of money, or people, can replace our deepest bonds. You can patch up the cracks with other relationships, but nobody can replace the role your mom had in your life. It's okay to grieve, never be ashamed of those feelings. Carry on that bond with your own children, family, and know that your mom will always live through you. I'm sorry for your loss. That no matter how much I have my life together, from being the first to graduate college, to a husband who loves me and supports me and is a wonderful dad, to kids who are well behaved and loving and happy, to being a great employee and a true and loyal friend, to all my volunteer work, my mom will never love me as much as she loves my sister who lies, cheats, steals and an all-around evil person, all because she is an ideal weight and I am not. I'm a pretty normal and well-adjusted human these days, or at least I like to think so. People would never guess I spent my childhood growing up in absolute poverty. I've lived in tents and vehicles, eaten out of dumpsters, and stolen other people's pet food just for something to eat. One place we lived was so infested with mice that I got used to having them run over me while I slept. I still have a scar on my finger from the time one of them decided to chomp me. When I read sob stories about third world poverty conditions, my first thought is, what the F are they complaining about? They've got it good. And then I remember that perhaps my upbringing isn't the best yardstick to judge good against. I'm lonely, I can tell my boyfriend and friends when I'm having a bad day, when I feel like cutting again, etc. But I can't bring myself to tell them that I'm lonely. It feels like wherever I go I'm always lonely. In Glasgow I was lonely. When I moved to a different city I was lonely, and now that I'm back at my parents' I'm lonely. On average I interact with about 3 people. My parents and a neighbor. It effing sucks. This is a great thread. I just want you all to know that for what it's worth, at least we are all sharing this world in this small slice of time. So whatever kind of life you're having right now, please know that it is precious. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. This thought always makes me feel better. My sister and my dad used to think it was funny when, starting at 3 or 4 years old, every time my mom was going to be gone for an expanded period of time, they would say, "She isn't coming back. She doesn't love you. She doesn't want you around. She's gone forever." They thought it was funny because I loved her and I would have a breakdown. What they didn't know was my mom would always tell me if it wasn't for me she could have gotten back with her true love. And when I was older she would say she didn't love me and she didn't think anyone ever would. I was unlovable. She even tried suicide once or twice when I was much older and said the same thing, and said she wished she had son she could love and would have made her happy. She said this as I was on the line with 911, covered in vomit, and to this day I don't think I'll ever feel love. I have a wife, but mostly don't believe it. To be perfectly honest, this is nowhere near as bad as some of the stories I have read on here, and TBH I just want to get my feelings out. I'm not sure if anyone has ever felt like no matter what, you are always a bother to someone. Like if you want to talk to them you just feel like they are just chatting with you to be nice, or you feel like you're a nuisance to them, and this is something that has plagued me since 6th grade. And I even get this feeling from my own dad occasionally. Second screwed up part about me is my depression. As in I always feel like I'm destined to fail no matter what. That my anxiety always makes me feel like I'm going to fail no matter how hard I try. And furthermore, a first try always has to be a perfect try no matter what. I've always wanted to be a cook. But how the hell can I do that when I'm constantly doubting myself whenever I try and cook stuff? Hell, I can barely even separate a egg yolk white without panicking and breaking the yolk. Finally, and this emo is the worst part, but the near constant onslaught of suicidal thoughts I've had since 2011, and to this day I honestly just want to man up enough to pull the trigger and end it all. I'm not sure if any of you are religious, but I genuinely hope there is something after just where I can finally feel accepted. Finally feel like I can chat with friends without feeling unwanted, and just be the son I know my dad wants, and he can say oh his life would be nothing without me. I highly doubt that, not to mention the time I nearly pulled a stunt off a few years back, but that's another story for another time. Anyway, I highly doubt anyone is going to respond to this, so feel free to respond or not. I just felt like getting some feelings off my chest I've had for the past 4-5 years.